Hi, Tom Anderson, day 59 of 100 Days of Thankfulness. Today I'm talking about the importance of genuine enthusiasm as well as why I'm so thankful for my friend Jeff McKoskey. So applying enthusiasm to all areas of your life can make a huge difference. And when I talk about enthusiasm, I'm not just talking about suddenly becoming an extrovert and being the life of the party everywhere you go. That's not me. I'm more of an introvert, and so for me, enthusiasm is something that's more felt than it's seen. And you know, it's I guess one of my favorite quotes about enthusiasm is from Zig Ziglar, and he says, "Your attitude, not your aptitude, determines your altitude in life." And that's so true. Often it's the person that has that can-do attitude that gets things done, much more than the person that might even have more talent but has a negative attitude about what he's doing. So the important thing there is that your enthusiasm is genuine. It's not fake it till you make it, because otherwise you're just walking through life as if you're posing for a picture and you're miserable on the inside everywhere you go. Life wasn't meant to be lived that way. It needs to be genuine. So how do you know if your enthusiasm is genuine? Think about the things that you just love to do, and think about the people you love the most. We naturally have enthusiasm for that. Take, for example, most people on Friday are more enthusiastic than they are on Monday, and the reason is because they're looking forward to the weekend where they have the freedom to basically do all the things that they love the most with the people that they love the most. That being said, what I'm talking about in terms of having enthusiasm applied to all areas of your life, it's so important to not just live for the weekend. We need to live with enthusiastically every day of our life, working towards our full potential. And so on Monday, I once saw this bumper sticker that said, I owe, so off to work I go. And that's, a lot of times that's the attitude a lot of people have about their job. Now I'm fortunate because I love computer programming. And so, for me, it's not really the challenge that I have on Monday. But if that's you, if that's something that, you don't love your job, then, there's nothing wrong with that, so long as you're working towards finding something better that you do love. And if nothing else, at least being thankful that you even have a job. I remember when I was laid off from work, I had learned then during that time that I was out of work how to truly appreciate having a job where I have a steady income. So there's always reasons to be thankful. There's reasons to be enthusiastic. Now I'm talking a lot about my career or people's career, but that's really just an example. And when I say applying enthusiasm to all areas of your life, maybe you're like me and you love your job, but you're there's some other area that you're struggling with. It could be your marriage, relationships, maybe your finances, or maybe you had something similar to what happened to me, where everything was going great, and then suddenly I have this huge health challenge. I was dealing with skin cancer and twice a day painful skin cancer treatments, and got a kidney stone on top of all that. That was something that when that type of thing happens to you, where it just comes out of nowhere, it makes it very, very difficult to be enthusiastic about anything, when it takes over. But really, it doesn't mean, when I say, again, enthusiasm, it doesn't mean that I'm, in the midst of my pain, I'm going to jump out of bed and say, oh, this is great. It means just learning to be thankful for, different things. For me, I learned to become, through that experience, I became very enthusiastic about health issues, especially in regards to preventing cancer and preventing kidney stones through nutrition and exercise. So that enthusiasm improved. I became very enthusiastic about the work that I was doing for Jostens, because through all those trials that I was going through, they were being extremely understanding and allowed me to be flexible with my hours in such a way that I could do these painful twice-a-day treatments and make it work in a way that I didn't go completely insane. And it also, I'd say that probably the biggest thing that it made me most enthusiastic for was my family. While I was, suffering through all this and I was in bed in pain, they would quietly bring me things, whatever I needed. And, normally my household is a pretty loud place with 7 boys, and, they were always real respectful of what I was going through and the pain that I was going through. And, there were times where it was really bad. I think there was a couple of times it was so bad I was screaming into my pillow, and they prayed for me. So that's something that, again, I'm doing 100 Days of Thankfulness, but that by itself, that promotes, this natural enthusiasm. I'm now much more enthusiastic about my family for that regard. I'd say the highest form of enthusiasm, or the highest form of genuine enthusiasm, is when it involves other people, and it involves being able to see the extraordinary in the seemingly ordinary. An example of that, I actually, back on day 8, I talked about how everyone has their own story, and that's why I love the TV show Lost, because they always filled you in on the backstory, and it was always a really interesting backstory. And that's something I believe. I believe every person you meet has a really, really interesting backstory. But you're never going to find out what that backstory is unless you show some interest, some level of enthusiasm towards people. The most enthusiastic person, or genuinely enthusiastic person I know in that way, is Jeff McKoskey. I grew up with him. I've known him since elementary school. And, since high school, I've only gotten together with him a few times. But every time that he invites me out to his house, or, we've gotten together a few times, and every time I walk away from, spending time with Jeff, I always feel good about him, and I feel really good about myself. And I started thinking, why do I feel so good every time I get together with Jeff? And it's because he is so incredibly, genuinely enthusiastic about everyone around him. He sees that extraordinary in the seemingly ordinary of people. He knows that everyone has an interesting story. When I get together with him, he spends time sharing his stories, but then he's very good about inviting other people to share their stories as well. And when you do, he makes you feel I feel very important. I feel very significant from that experience of, him showing enough interest to want to know more about me. So I just want to say thank you to Jeff McKoskey for perfectly exemplifying exactly what I mean by genuine enthusiasm.